Hey, Vince! Vince, hold it up a minute. Wait for me in the dressing room.
I'm busy now, Merv. Some other time.
Oh, we're both catching the same bus, aren't we? Oh, you know my wife always eats out on Wednesdays, and we always go down to the Italian place for dinner. So why the change?
Don't ask questions, Merv. Just keep away from me.
Oh, you in trouble?
Good, you don't know me. Anybody asks you, we work in the same place, that's all.
Hey! Hey, Vince! Vince, what's the matter? Where you going? Hey, Vince! Are those guys following you? Hey, hold up, Vince. We can take those guys. Hey, Vince! Vince, come back! We can handle them. Hey, you guys, get off of here.
Federal agents, mister. That man's being placed under arrest.
What for?
Charges violation of the Espionage and Sabotage Act.
Violation of what?
Time of war, we'd have another word for it. Treason.
This portion of The Defenders is brought to you by Viceroy. Not too strong, not too light. Viceroy's got the taste that's right. Viceroy soft pack or new slide top case.
The Marlin hit. The hook sank home. 300 pounds made the ocean foam. My paying guest was doing fine. Let him run! Give him more line! He leaped and he plunged. The rod nearly broke. But we got him on board. Then time for a smoke. She said,
I only smoke filters, and even at that, some taste too strong and some too flat.
I said Viceroy tastes the way you'd like a filter cigarette to taste. Not too strong, not too light. Viceroy's got the taste that's right.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
Well, I made a great catch, and here's the proof.
She has the fish and me under one roof.
That's right.
That's right.
So I want you to know, and you can take all bets, if you smoke all 7 filter cigarettes, you'll find some too strong, some too light. But Viceroy's got the taste that's right.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
Thanks very much for coming.
My associate, Kenneth Preston.
Mr. Gale?
Well, let's sit down.
I've said nothing, as you suggested on the phone.
Fine. It's best to take stock of the situation before making any statements. Well, there's no doubt you'll be charged with at least one count of violation of the Espionage and Sabotage Act.
Exactly what does that mean?
Well, roughly, it means that you'll be charged with gathering or divulging defense information to aid a foreign government.
They claim that you were stealing documents from the Council Aeronautics plant. So you work as a draftsman there, is that right?
Yes.
Do you have a security clearance?
No, I'm not involved in any of that. Listen, they've made a mistake.
Then you wish to plead not guilty.
Of course I do.
Are you a member of any subversive group? Or do you owe allegiance to any foreign power?
I do not.
Can you think of any reason why the government should suspect you?
No, I can't. Look, what can they do to me if you can't prove they're wrong?
The burden of proof is on them. As for the penalty, the maximum is death. It's rarely imposed, but I think you should know it's a possibility.
Is there anyone you'd like us to notify?
No, I'm not married. There's nobody to call.
Mr. Gale, there's no need to go this thing alone. You must have relatives.
No, there's nobody. My parents are dead. I haven't seen anybody in my family for 18 years or more. So why drag them into something like this? If you're worried about who's paying, I've got $4,000 in a savings bank uptown.
No, that isn't what worries me.
Then what are? What's worrying you?
I don't know. Where are you from?
What do you mean, where was I born?
Yes.
Pembleton, Iowa. But I haven't been there since I was a kid.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to tell us?
Like what?
Well, I don't know.
Then why did you ask?
Mr. Gale, I wasn't sure that you knew that whatever you told us would be held in the strictest confidence.
I told you the truth.
All right, we've got some inquiries to make. We'll be back. Gale, how did it happen you chose us to represent you?
I saw you on the Lou Bartlett interview program on television.
We'll be back tomorrow.
I'd say he was lying.
And doesn't care if we know it.
Mr. Preston?
Yes?
Frank Evans. I'm handling the Cale case for the government.
Oh, yes, Mr. Evans. My son, Ken.
Well, how do you do, Evans? Now, I'm not trying to prejudice your view of the case, but I'll venture a wild guess that Cale just told you he's absolutely innocent and he wants to plead not guilty.
It's a little early to discuss plea.
Well, I'm willing to turn up a few of my cards right now. For instance, we're charging Cale with illegally obtaining classified documents pertaining to national security and turning such information over to a foreign government.
I notice you didn't mention the name of that foreign government.
We plan to correct that omission before we come to court. Give us time.
Time. That's what we all could use more of.
Any question?
I'd like access to Cale's apartment after you finish your search, if I may.
Well, sure. Drop down tomorrow if you like. We're photographing it in its present state. I'll be there all morning.
Be in court on motions tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.
Can I cover that for you?
Yes, fine.
I'm sure you'll find it enlightening.
And Lawrence Preston, Mr. Evans is expecting me.
Oh, Larry, come in, please. I'm glad you came. May give you a cleaner picture of the man you're defending. Let's start with this desk over here. Seems to me that your client liked to build false bottoms in the drawers.
Cabinet making could be a hobby of his.
Except that this one contains a supply of miniature cameras. And of course, that's not conclusive.
I was about to add that.
Let's take a look at this darkroom over here, Larry. There's quite a bit of photographic equipment in there. And all of it has been designed to reduce photographs to the most minute proportions. Oh, I know. It might be another unusual hobby. This is a very old but effective method of transporting goods undetected. There are 5 pairs of these shoes in the closet.
Could be the tools of a smuggler. Doesn't indicate what was carried.
That's true. That's very true. Here we have a shortwave radio, powerful enough to reach Europe. They've rigged up an antenna on the roof.
There are thousands of ham operators in America.
There were reams of documents burned in that fireplace over there. And a great many of them were photostats. My office is doing the best thing they can to reconstruct them, but we're going very carefully.
Does that conclude the parade of evidence?
Oh, there's one more thing. Excuse me, Larry.
Gothic architecture. I can't say you went in for very colorful reading.
You'll notice we've split the binding on our search. Each one of these capsules contains enough potassium cyanide compound to kill a person in 2 seconds. In the trade, they're known as suicide capsules.
All of this should have been removed yesterday. You've kept it here to impress me. Now, let's get to the point. What do you want?
I just want you to know, Larry, that your client is lying to you.
It appears he was withholding some facts.
Oh, come on, Larry. All of these things, the trappings of a professional. Not a man who's duped, but a man who premeditatedly gathers information and then delivers it to the enemies of his country.
Oh, I don't think these few gadgets substantiate all that.
I think this evidence destroys any chance of Cale's getting away with the plea of not guilty.
And you want me to suggest he plead guilty?
For his own benefit, and for the benefit of the country. The government isn't interested solely in this one man. We want to know for whom he was working and what information he stole and transmitted, and the identities of his superiors.
I understand.
It's vital for the government to have this information.
I'm with you entirely, Mr. Evans, but from the standpoint of defending Vincent Cale, how will his volunteering information help his case?
Well, you know there can be no deals, but a judge should take Cale's attitude into consideration.
Will you recommend it?
Why not, if Cale acts in good faith?
This puts me in a very uncomfortable position.
Well, if your client helps us, he helps himself.
Not if there's a possibility of winning an acquittal. And I don't think you can prove your case on this basis, unless you can show evidence that Cale transmitted anything to a foreign government.
I can prove theft. With intent to transmit, that can make up the case. Oh, come on, Larry. You know what to do. You have a duty to your country, too.
Yes. Yes, but how do I reconcile that with my duty to my client?
Yeah, I know. That's going to be rough on you. Fortunately, this time I happen to be on the easy side.
Well, thanks for letting me see the place.
You're worried.
I've just come from your apartment, Vincent.
Oh. It's not much of a place, is it?
You're a draftsman, aren't you? Isn't that what you do? Why do you have a short-wave transmitter in your apartment?
Maybe some other tenant left it there.
Do you always wear shoes with hollowed-out heels?
I don't understand what you're talking about, Mr. Preston.
What about the photographic setup, the code books, and the ashes of burned government documents in your fireplace?
More riddles, Mr. Preston?
You do live in apartment 4C, don't you?
That's right, but none of those things you mentioned were ever there.
Then how did they get there today?
I'll take a guess. Maybe they were placed there by a federal agent to make me look guilty.
Nonsense.
Why not? Evidence has been planted before.
The government doesn't operate that way, and you and I both know it.
The government will do anything to get a conviction thereafter. I've been chosen as their scapegoat.
Is this what you were told to say? Are you still under orders?
And are you afraid I'll get on the witness stand and tell the world I was framed?
That's the customary thing to do, isn't it?
You're a bit of a cliche yourself, Mr. Preston. A courageous lawyer, a defender of unpopular causes. Just as long as it's popular to be unpopular. But this rubs you the wrong way, doesn't it? This scares you a little bit.
No, you scare me, Mr. Cale. Because guilty or innocent, I wish I didn't feel it my duty to defend you. I've never felt like deserting any client before. It's against my principles. The very fact I've thought of it scares the life out of me.
You won't quit me. You can't. Because you've been working in league with the government all along. You were sent here to get me to incriminate myself, so you could betray me to them.
You can talk about betrayal with your record?
Not guilty, Mr. Preston. That's the plea I'm ordering you to enter for me.
Do you know that in some countries that have abolished capital punishment, treason still carries the death penalty? It's the most heinous crime known to society, because it's completely incomprehensible. What did this country ever do to you that you should betray it? What are the reasons or justifications? I don't think there can be any reasons or justifications, although there's a slim chance of you paying with your life. As far as I'm concerned, you're a dead man already.
You've prosecuted, judged, and condemned me, Mr. Preston. Now, are you going to defend me or not?
I lost control and made a complete fool of myself. I felt like smacking him just to shut him up. I wish there was some decent way for us to withdraw from this case.
Oh, Dad, isn't that because you're angry? Because we have no grounds to deny him in defense. How many times have you told me that we're advocates and not judges? Can a priest or a minister or a rabbi refuse to help one of his congregation because the man sinned? Because he broke God's law? No. Neither can you afford to back off because of personality.
Is that what you call it? Personalities? This isn't some sophomoric exercise you take on for experience or public attention.
Never thought that it was.
I guess the real answer is I wish I wasn't defending Cale. Because I'm afraid I can't give him an adequate defense. I'm personally prejudiced against him.
We've defended murderers and worse. You didn't agree with what they'd done either.
I didn't feel as personally moved against them as I do against Cale. He's betrayed his country. And now he wants the full protection of the system he tried to subvert.
I'll get it. Yes, Hal. Okay. Send him in. Lou Bartlett's here.
Oh, it's too early in the day for a television personality.
He called first thing this morning. I made the appointment. I'm sorry.
Ken, Larry, good to see you both.
Hello, Lou.
You know, I've been meaning to phone you guys for weeks to tell you that that program you did for us was one of our best.
You've asked us for a return engagement, huh, Lou?
What?
Well, now that we're defending Vincent Cale.
I don't think you should be.
Oh, why?
Sit down, sit down. I want to talk to you both. Now, I think a guy like Cale should get the maximum penalty, don't you?
Well, I think the extent of his punishment depends on the judge and the jury.
Oh, I know all about that.
Lou, don't you think he's entitled to an adequate defense?
Adequate, yes, but you're more than adequate. I don't think a traitor should have the very best attorneys on his side.
Now, wait a minute, Lou. We're not siding with him. We're defending him.
Defending a traitor, while we're fighting for survival.
Well, I don't think we can settle for survival alone. I want us to win.
Don't tell me it's patriotic to help this country's enemies.
And don't you equate defending a traitor with being a traitor. Now, look, Lou, I'm sorry, but you've got to realize that failure to give Cale the very fairest trial under law does far more damage to this country than all of Cale's treachery. By defending him, we're defending everything that we believe in, our principles of justice and our very freedom.
Well, that's your opinion. Now, you take mine and get off this case.
Lou, we don't tell you how to run your television show. Don't tell us how to practice law.
Oh, you don't think this is any of my business, eh?
Who appointed you a one-man pressure group to hang Cale?
Look, I'm doing this for your own good.
Is that supposed to be a threat? Because you know better. Now, excuse us. We've got work to do. Some people
are so pompous.
I think we were, don't you?
What, pompous? Yeah, I guess we were a bit, weren't we?
The race was on, and the track was fast. The horse I backed came in dead last. I couldn't believe it, but the gal next to me had just finished picking 3 out of 3. It was plain to see I could use some advice, so I offered her a smoke just to break the ice. She said,
I only smoke filters, but some are so mild you can hardly taste them.
and I just smiled. I said, Viceroy tastes the way you'd like a filter cigarette to taste. Not too strong, not too light. Viceroy's got the taste that's right.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
Now when I go to the track, I win, because I bring along my next of kin.
That's right.
That's right.
Now, I want you to know, and I'll take all bets, if you smoke all 7 filter cigarettes, you'll find some too strong, some too light. But Viceroy's got the taste that's right.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right. Well, you were right about him. To smack him, too.
See the smirk on his face when you told him we were still representing him?
Somehow, under all that arrogance, the feeling he's willing to accept punishment. In fact, he's almost anxious.
Maybe in his twisted way, he's proud of what he's done. How do you reach people like that? They won't let you understand.
Are you, Vince Cale's lawyers?
Yes, that's right.
I've been waiting for an hour for you. I'm Merv Irwin. I'm his best friend. They won't let me in to see him. Can you get me in?
Oh, well, I'm sorry, Mr. Irwin. Only immediate family are allowed in there.
Well, he'll be out soon anyway. I mean, this won't hold. You know, my wife advised me not to see him. She's scared, you know.
I mean, all that stuff in the papers. I won't tell you a lie, I'm kind of scared myself. What kind of a country is this getting to be when they can accuse a nice guy like Vince of doing such a thing? It's unbelievable.
Exactly how close were you to Cale?
We worked together. I mean, he used to have dinner at my place 2 and 3 times a week. Annie and I felt sorry for him, you know, him being a bachelor alone. I'm telling you, you don't break bread with a guy week after week without getting to know him.
I'm afraid the evidence against your friend is overwhelming.
Well, what kind of talk is that for his own lawyer?
We're speaking of facts.
Then give me some facts. Tell me why. Tell me one good reason why Vince would do what they said he did.
We don't know his motive, Mr. Irwin.
Sure, because he didn't have any.
Did he need money badly?
Well, he had a good salary.
What about his politics?
He never sounded off about politics, huh?
Did he have a girl, someone else we might question?
Oh, Annie and I got him dates now and again, but he was never interested. You know, he was a kind of a loner. Maybe I didn't know him as much as I thought I did.
Did he ever tell you about his background?
No.
Well, that's odd. You're his closest friend, and he never talked of his childhood or his family back in Iowa?
No.
Don't you think that's strange?
Now that I come to think of it, I do.
I think it's worth a plane trip to Iowa, don't you?
I think it is.
Sergeant, I wonder if you could help me. I'm a lawyer representing us.
No, sir. Porter's been here day before yesterday asking about that same fella. I was born and raised in this town, and I know the Cale family. They're all deceased. Old Lady Cale was taken about 9, maybe 10 years ago.
Well, what about a son named Vincent?
Not that I remember, mister. Here they are.
Sergeant, I'd like to go over the records of births and deaths for the past 35, 40 years. I wonder if you could tell me where I could find those.
They used to be kept down in the old city hall, but all them records got lost when the old building went up in a fire back in 1947.
Oh, boy.
So, guess you're out of luck. Hey, wait a minute. Tell you who you could see, though.
What did you want to ask me, Mr. Preston?
Well, I understand that you were a nurse for the late Dr. Pollard. I guess that was some time back.
Sometime. 1930 or before. I started with him in the spring of 27. He was a fine man.
Now, Miss Ernst, this is going to tax your memory a little bit. But do you remember a family named Cale? K-A-Y-L-E.
I think I do. Cale. Give me a minute. Oh, yes, of course, Joseph Cale.
Yes.
Oh, but they died some time ago.
Well, what I want to know is this. Did Mrs. Cale give birth to a son about that time? A boy called Vincent?
Well, the poor things. I don't know what they named the child.
But there was a boy? Possibly the same one that's been in the newspapers?
Couldn't be.
Well, Miss Ernst, how can you be so sure? Nobody in this town seems to have seen Vincent Cale for over 30 years.
Mister, I know where you can find him.
It may interest you to know that your client, Vincent Cale, doesn't exist.
I know. My son phoned me from Iowa.
Oh. Well, I doubt whether he's uncovered Cale's true identity. We have. Oh? With an entirely new complexion on this case.
Why?
Take a look at that. Your client isn't a citizen of this country at all. He entered the United States 8 years ago illegally, assumed Cale's identity, and went to work on the job he was sent here to carry out. To commit espionage.
Then he's not a traitor. He's not an American betraying his country. He's working for his country.
Against ours. You're defending an enemy agent now, Larry. A spy.
Nearly everyone agrees the aches and pains of flu and colds are even more troublesome than a headache. So an ordinary headache tablet may not bring the relief you want. Try new Excedrin, the extra strength pain reliever. Compare Excedrin. This is the formula for the leading pain reliever. This Excedrin's with more quantity and more kinds of ingredients than leading pain tablets. Excedrin's extra strength formula gives you 1, quick relief, 2, long-lasting relief, 3, a fever reducer to lower your temperature, 4, an antidepressant to restore your spirits. Tablet for tablet, Excedrin is 50% stronger than aspirin for relief of headache pain. So, for headaches that really bother you, pain that really hurts, take new Excedrin, the extra strength pain reliever, recommended for the aches and pains of flu and colds.
This portion of The Defenders has been brought to you by Viceroy Cigarettes. Viceroy's got the taste that's right. Viceroy, another quality product of the Brown and Williamson Tobacco Corporation.
This portion of The Defenders is presented by Brisk Lipton Tea, your change of pace in flavor and refreshment. Brisk Lipton Tea, the change of pace drink. Meet householder Jim gulping his morning coffee. Later, more coffee. Still later, coffee again, and then a change of pace.
Coffee? Hey, wait. I'd sooner Lipton.
And you'll want tea for a change when it's Brisk Lipton Tea. It's the change of pace drink because Lipton satisfies like coffee, but refreshes you better. Satisfies as no other tea can. Lipton is one tea that's different. Better blend with its choice orange Pico tea. Better tea bag with not just 2 brewing sides, but 4. The Lipton flow-through tea bag. Brews big, brisk flavor. It satisfies like coffee, but refreshes you better. Gives you a friendlier lift. So mealtime, anytime, make it Lipton instead. Enjoy the change of pace drink, Brisk Lipton Tea.
How are you, David?
I see you gentlemen have been busy.
So has the prosecution. It knows you're David Chanak.
Perhaps I did have a different name. What can they prove by that?
It's confirmatory evidence on the question of your intent to pass material to a foreign nation. Doesn't help.
But for the record, I'm Vincent Cale. I'm an American. I've never been out of this country. And I'm innocent. I'm sorry if that makes it difficult for you.
Not difficult. Impossible.
Why? You said your ethics forced you to defend me.
I have an ethical duty to defend you, yes. But it's unethical to advance a defense I know to be a lie, and I won't do it.
I don't intend to lie either. I won't even testify.
But you'll plead not guilty.
I have to.
Are you trying to prove you're a strong man by demonstrating unbreakable will?
Why else would one go into this profession other than to prove that he was a strong man?
Why did you volunteer for espionage?
I was needed. I was a mechanical engineer. I had a mastery of the English language. During my military service, I was an intelligence officer. I was uniquely qualified to come to America as an observer. How could I refuse?
I hate to see a man throw his life away. If you'd make a gesture of cooperation.
For example?
The prosecution is very anxious for you to name the country which sent you here.
My instructions read, if apprehended, engage a private attorney, plead not guilty, and give no testimony.
Obeying those orders will add years to your sentence. Might even cost you your life.
You change positions without even knowing it, don't you, Mr. Preston?
My only thought is for what will benefit you from a legal standpoint.
The other day you were preoccupied with morality. But that was when your country appeared to be the one that suffered. Remember how you attacked me for being a traitor? Yet today you're asking me to commit treason against my country.
Mr. Preston, you were pointed out to me. I've been phoning your office all day. I'm Malcolm Standish.
I'm sorry, we're due in court.
I won't monopolize your time. I simply want to commend you on your marvelously enlightened viewpoint in taking on the Cale defense. Naturally, there are many of us who admire you, and we're not such a minority as you might think.
It's good to hear that.
A group of us would like to aid, if you would be kind enough to let us.
Well, at the moment,
I have a check for you. Please accept it with our gratitude as a token of our sympathy, and
That's quite a lot of money.
we'd like you to have it.
You keep referring to we. Exactly who do you represent?
Some of the funds come from the treasury of the New Justice League. We're also planning to issue a series of pamphlets about the significance of the Cale trial.
What significance?
Why, the political overtones.
We don't want your money, Mr. Standish. And we don't welcome the support of your organization or any other opportunists.
We're trying to help you.
And you can give a message to the New Justice League and any other little front groups that care to tag along. There is nothing political about this case or our client.
It's our job to see that he is not denied his civil liberties. And I'm not so sure that you can be trusted to do that.
Vincent Cale's civil liberties aren't in need of protection by you. They're being scrupulously guarded by the United States government and by a little document known as the Constitution, which you ought to read aloud at one of your meetings. It might impress your membership. Your Honor, may I continue examining the prospective jurors?
Go ahead.
Mrs. Black, have you been following this case?
Yes, I have.
Have you formed an opinion as to the guilt or innocence of the accused?
I'm not sure.
Is there any reason why you can't serve on this jury impartially and without prejudice?
I don't know. I lost a son defending this country. The war in Korea.
I see. Your son was a soldier, and he obeyed orders, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
And possibly he was asked to do things he didn't actually want to do, but he obeyed orders, didn't he?
Yes.
Then you understand how a man might be forced to obey orders, repugnant to you, and perhaps even to him.
Yes, I will understand.
Thank you.
What are you going to do with her?
I'm accepting her.
I see what you're driving at, and it's beginning to sound like the old defense for war criminals.
It's the only direction I can go in.
Yeah, but to argue your point, you're going to have to get your client to plead guilty.
Maybe all I'm trying to do is find a jury that will recommend mercy after you win your conviction.
You'll get mercy if you decide to cooperate, otherwise I'll oppose it. If you were in my place, so would you.
Of course. If I were in your place, I'd do just that. Sir, have you formed an opinion on this case?
I haven't.
Do you have any feelings at all which might cause you to prejudge the facts?
Absolutely not.
Have you discussed the case with friends?
No?
Would you like to serve on the jury, Mr. Gable?
Certainly I would.
Any particular reason?
Well, it's my duty, isn't it?
Well, yes. You're a civic-minded individual, then.
I should hope so.
You read the newspapers daily?
Yes?
Yet in this case, you formed no opinion whatsoever.
No.
And you discussed this case with no one, one of the most talked about news stories, and you never spoke of it?
I can serve on this jury and turn in a correct verdict. I have a right to serve.
Have you decided on the verdict already?
You don't want people like me on your jury.
Your Honor, I challenge Mr. Gable for cause.
Allowed. Step down, Mr. Gable.
You don't want people whose common sense can't be blinded by your fancy speeches and your courtroom dramatics.
That will be enough, sir. You are excused.
Looks as if some people did listen to our friend Bartlett. You're selling out your country.
Traitors! Traitors!
You're selling out your country!
Traitors!
You hear me? You're
And give aid to her enemies. The government will prove that this man is in fact a citizen of another nation. That his name is actually David Chernak. We will prove that he was sent to these shores to engage in espionage activities. We will also prove that once here, he became what is referred to as a sleeper agent. That is, a foreign agent who, once within a country, assumes the identity of a citizen of that country, and for many years he lives a normal life, makes friends, cultivates relationships, and waits for orders. Orders may not come until the spy has been assimilated into the community. But once they do come, they are obeyed immediately. For this is what the sleeper agent has worked and waited so long for. This chance to destroy the country which has served as his home.
You must not assume these charges are true. simply because they're of such magnitude. You must not accept guilt on the basis of circumstantial evidence in this case any more than we would in another. Also, each of you must set aside any personal prejudice you may harbor and listen only to the facts. The government must show that espionage was intended. The government must show that espionage was accomplished. The shouting of foreign names holds no weight in a court of law. The prosecution must show conclusive evidence to prove that such a person as David Charnock ever existed.
The defendant was brought to the Federal House of Detention, where he was notified of the charge against him. He was searched and fingerprinted, and a detailed list was kept of all articles found on his person.
And were there witnesses present at the time of this search?
Yes, there were. Special Agents Greenstreet, Morton, and Laszlo were there.
You recognize this cigarette case marked prosecution's Exhibit A?
Yes, sir. It was taken from the suspect during that initial search.
Did you examine it? And if so, what did you find?
Yes, I found a tiny compartment right here in the underside. It contained a roll of exposed film.
Did your office develop this film?
We did. There were 9 photographs on the roll.
How could they be so sure they'd find evidence on him that particular day? I don't believe in that much luck.
They may have been watching him for months. I'll ask about it.
No more questions.
Blaine, prior to the arrest of the defendant, how long had you and your agents kept Vincent Cale under surveillance?
There was no prolonged surveillance in relation to this arrest.
Yet on the afternoon in question, you arrested the defendant with full confidence that you would find sufficient evidence on his person to hold him?
We did.
How long had your office been investigating Vincent Cale?
We'd been involved in guarding the security of Conson Aeronautics Corporation since they were awarded government contracts 5 years ago.
But dealing specifically with Vincent Cale, how long had he been suspect of espionage?
He had not been under suspicion up until November 14th.
The very day prior to his arrest? Would you expand on that, please? Would you tell us what facts came into your possession that precipitated the defendant's immediate arrest?
Objection, Your Honor. I don't think the witness should be compelled to reveal his sources of information. And I don't believe such sources have any relevance to this trial.
One of the basic tenets of our judicial system is that a defendant be informed who his accusers are. Objection overruled. The witness can answer.
On the evening of the 14th at 10:15 p.m., I received a phone call from an anonymous informant. The caller said that Vincent Cale was an employee of Conson Aeronautics who was engaged in espionage and cautioned me that unless we moved immediately, all evidence against him would be destroyed. Well, acting on this tip, we arrested Cale.
And subsequently, did you learn the identity of the man or woman who made this call?
Well, it was a man, and we're still in the dark as to who it was.
You mean to say that a nameless voice on the other end of the telephone is the only witness to the so-called espionage of the defendant?
Objection. The defense should withhold summation until all the witnesses have been heard.
I withdraw the question. That completes my examination of this witness.
The court will recess for lunch until 2 o'clock. The jury will not discuss this case with anyone or among themselves.
You heard it. An informer turned you into the authorities.
Vincent, have you got any idea who it was? No.
This informer is the missing link in this case. If he makes an appearance, he can be very damaging unless we're prepared.
I don't know. I told you I don't know. Vincent, is it possible that the informant was one of your own agents? Somebody supposedly on your side? Maybe your own people wanted to get rid of you.
No, he hadn't completed his mission yet.
What did you have to bring this up for? Blaine didn't want to talk about it.
I may be wrong, but at least I found out an informer exists.
Let's drop it.
Why are you so anxious to forget the informer?
He can't help us, can he?
Are you protecting someone?
Let's get out.
Mr. Preston. Mr. Preston.
Say, who do you think turned Vincent?
I was hoping you could tell me.
How should I know?
You were with him the afternoon of his arrest. Did he seem nervous, like a man afraid he was about to be betrayed to the authorities?
He was jumpy. He told me to Irene, his friend. He kept looking around, nervous, not himself.
Do you think he might have known exactly what was about to happen?
Well, if that was so, why did he wait so long? He could have run away.
Maybe he didn't want to run away. Maybe he walked right into it. Vincent, you know who informed on you.
Do I?
You were working alone. You had no accomplices to turn you in. Yet the person who informed on you knew exactly when you'd be carrying incriminating evidence.
It doesn't matter who turned me in. What's important now is how I get out of here. Let's discuss that.
Not until my questions are answered. First, how did it happen you were carrying my home telephone number on you when you were arrested? That's an unlisted number. You had to go to some trouble beforehand to obtain it. How were you so sure you were going to need a lawyer?
Sound like you were prosecuting me.
You knew you'd be arrested. You burned certain papers in your fireplace. You anticipated being convicted and sent to prison.
This privileged communication between lawyer and client. It means whatever I tell you goes no further.
I'm on my honor to keep you a secret.
You know already, don't you? Yes. I made the phone call. I informed on myself.
Hi, I'm George Fenneman for Lipton Tea, your change of pace drink. Why do so many people switch to Lipton these days? Well, let one of my friends here show you. Bill's a reporter. Four-alarm fire at dawn. Bill's off with coffee, gets his story, types it for rewrite, gulps more coffee, reports police call, coffee again, then home. Not more coffee. It's Lipton tea instead. The change of pace drink. Lipton satisfies like coffee, but refreshes you better. Bill reports, I'd sooner Lipton. Only Lipton tea gives you such a rewarding change from coffee. Why? Because only Lipton brews big, brisk flavor. You get this extra quality blend with its choice orange Pico tea, plus this Lipton flow-through tea bag. That's why I'd sooner Lipton. I believe you will, too. Enjoy it often. A change of pace drink. Brisk Lipton tea.
Don't you see, by putting myself here, I was getting free for the first time.
Free from the responsibility of carrying out your orders?
Free from having to make that kind of decision ever again.
Are you trying to tell me you no longer wanted to spy against the United States? Why the change of heart?
Oh, I wanted to spy against the United States, but I was never the kind of spy you think. Nothing like what you're used to in your movies and your novels. For 8 years, I just lived here, behaved like any other American. And when I least expected it, I'd receive a coded letter ordering me to carry out some menial task, like receiving a piece of baggage or receiving a briefcase. They made me a delivery boy. Then 3 years ago, they told me I was to infiltrate consular aeronautics, gain access to secret reports. They felt I had successfully established myself and was ready for a major assignment. It took 14 months for my job application to be received and approved. Then I was finally in a position to accomplish my mission.
That covers your entire career as a spy here?
Disappointing. No sabotage, no assassinations, no violence of any kind. Just interminable waiting for orders that never came. In between, daily routine. Same bus to work each morning, same newspaper to read on the way, lunch in the same cafeteria, home at 6 o'clock for a quiet evening with the same friends.
Life. And it seemed very real to you?
Oh, it was real. And all of a sudden it ended. About a month ago, they started pressuring me for results. I was getting coded letters all the time demanding documented reports on activities at the plant, photostats of documents.
You hadn't been supplying them?
I was in no position to get hold of them. I had no security clearance.
But you managed, obviously.
It was easier than I thought. People trusted me. It's not hard to fool people who trust you and show you kindness.
So you did supply your superiors?
When I got a look at the photos I'd taken, I realized I'd stumbled on important data. I'm no expert, but I am an engineer. I realized that I was a success as a spy.
And did you transmit that information back to your superiors?
No. I sent nothing.
You volunteered for this work, and you're asking me to believe you never carried it out?
David Chernak volunteered. He's dead. He died of exposure to a free society. About 6 years ago, I was working in another plant. It was a strike, a different city. I was part of it like all the other employees. I suppose you would call it freely exercising my right to improve my position. We stayed out for 3 weeks. Nobody threatened us. Nobody used force. Nobody tried to hurt us. The government left us alone. Just a bunch of mechanics in a factory. We had dignity because we had the right to disagree. It's almost laughable, isn't it? That I should become the man I was pretending to be.
But once you decided not to obey, why did you have yourself arrested?
Suppose you're a soldier in a war, and you suddenly realize that you don't believe in what your country is fighting for anymore. Suppose you're convinced that they're wrong. What do? Do you change sides and fight against your own country? You traitor and help to kill your own flesh and blood? Is that what you do?
No, I wouldn't.
Easy for you. You're an American, and you believe in America. It's as simple as that. You fight for what you believe in. This is my country. And that is my country also. So the only thing to do is to stop fighting. That way you don't have to be a part of it anymore, and then you're free not to decide.
But you are deciding. Even when you simply resign, you're affecting the outcome.
I know all those arguments. I've had them with myself for 6 years.
Why throw away your future in the country you've come to believe in?
Maybe that's the price of self-respect.
Self-punishment is a better word. Aren't you trying to atone for your failure to your homeland?
That's so hard to understand. This has become my home, but a part of me remembers another home. A mother and a father who were very proud of their son when he went to fight for his country.
How will your family feel knowing you'll spend your life in a cell? Your own private form of excommunication.
They'll be told that I was a hero. I was captured in the line of duty. They'll hang a flag out in the window on a holiday without shame. They'll consider me a hero.
You wanted that badly, didn't you?
Once. Please, let me be convicted.
You've helped this country.
Please, let me be convicted.
If the truth is known, you stand a good chance of being convicted of a much lesser charge. You never passed on any information. You turned yourself in. Let me put you on the witness stand to tell your story.
You want me to buy my way out of this?
I want you to earn the right to stay here.
By turning against my own country?
Your former country.
Look, let me ask you something. Can you conceive of any set of circumstances that would ever make you turn against America?
No.
Then why can't you understand my position?
Because they're not similar positions. They're not similar countries. They don't stand for the same thing.
You think you're better.
I know we're better.
Just the same way they know they're better.
Look, you're getting a fair trial. Would I be treated as fairly over there? You know I wouldn't. I could be held incommunicado for months. So there is a difference. And there's no point in pretending you don't know what that difference is. You want to stay here. You wouldn't be the first of your country to make that choice. But I don't think you should spend your life behind bars.
Got nowhere to go and nowhere to stay. What limbo is? Nothingness. Non-existence. I'm a man in limbo, Mr. Preston. That's where I deserve to be. I love my country. I love this one. God, I can't betray either one.
Several interested parties overseas have opened negotiations to free an American citizen being held captive on charges of espionage. News stories will probably break any minute.
How does that concern us?
Well, there's talk of an exchange for Cale. Something similar to the exchange of Colonel Rudolph Abel for the U-2 pilot. Well, naturally, it's just talk. Any swap may take months, perhaps years to work out. But the intent's there.
The trial goes on, but I have the feeling we're just going through the motions.
That's all the more reason why I wanted to talk to you about this unidentified informer.
Oh, you still looking for him?
Has your client told you who he thinks the informer is?
Frank, I can't answer that.
Ah, come on, Larry. I'm not talking to you now in any official capacity. I know I'm out of line. I'm just talking to you as one citizen to another. You just said this trial is nothing more than procedure. Well, you have to locate this informer for reasons that have nothing to do with Vincent Cale. He may have other vital information the government can use. I give you my word. You'll never be called as a witness against you. If you know his name, will you tell us?
Sorry.
Now, look, Larry, your country is involved. You don't want another member of this spy ring running around loose, do you?
Whatever knowledge I possess will do you no good. And believe me, there is no imminent danger to the informant or because of him.
You're in no position to evaluate this information. What may seem relatively innocent to you can be very dangerous when viewed by people trained in counter-espionage.
I am in a position to evaluate whether the information is privileged or not, and it is.
Well, this isn't petty thievery we're playing around with. We're trying to safeguard the national security here.
Safeguarding the relationship between lawyer and client is a matter of national security.
Well, how far can you carry this? Suppose you knew of a clear danger to this country.
Oh, no.
Would you still keep quiet just to satisfy a client's whim? Suppose you knew about Pearl Harbor, huh? Could you violate your lawyer's vow then?
Of course. No question about it. But that's not apropos. That was an armed attack, outright military aggression. We're fighting a different kind of war now. The war for men's minds, the war of ideologies. And our mightiest weapon is our freedom. The real danger to us is losing that weapon, not from without, from within. The freedom for me to stand here and argue my position and you yours, that's our strength. And we can't let it be sapped by expediency or fear. You tamper with Vincent Cale's rights, and you tamper with your rights, and mine.
All right, Counselor. First things first, let's go to court.
Vincent, you have to decide now. Will you speak? You can stay in this country if you want to.
Mr. Preston, the other day when I asked you if you could ever conceive of turning against America, you said no, didn't you?
Yes.
I'll leave things as they are. I prefer not to speak.
Now that you've made your own choice, I can tell you, there's a possibility of your being exchanged for an American prisoner. It'll take time, but I'm sure that eventually it will happen.
So I could go home after all?
Yes, you could.
Mr. Preston, you said you wouldn't turn against America, but you didn't say what you would do if you thought it was wrong.
I tried to fix it. Work to change what I disagreed with.
But if doing that was against the law?
Then I'd work to change the law.
From within?
In any way I could.
It turns out I won't be betraying either country. Because by helping my own, I'll be helping this one. I've learned one thing here. It's the belief that a man has the right to change what he no longer believes in. Especially if it's his own country.
That kind of thinking could be dangerous for you. In your own country.
I'm trained to dangerous work, Mr. Preston. Life plays tricks on us. By a devious route, I'll be returning home the hero I always wanted to be.
Brian.
We're going to lose, aren't we?
Not ultimately.
Is the defense ready?
Ready, Your Honor. Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, before closing the case, I would like to point out that you are sitting in a federal court in the United States.
Hello, I'm Ed Reimers for Allstate. Would your present auto insurance cover you under these circumstances? You inadvertently skid into another car. Your car is sideswiped while parked, driver unknown, or picked clean by professional thieves, or totally ruined by floodwaters or high winds. Who would pay for your repairs? You would, if you're among the many drivers who carry only liability insurance. Your liability insurance only takes care of your responsibility for damage to the other guy's car, not yours.
If you want protection against virtually anything that can happen to your car, no matter whose fault it is, see an Allstate agent at Sears, an Allstate office, or right in your own home. With Allstate's low rates, most folks can afford this kind of coverage easier than you think. For low rates, full coverage, and fast, fair claim service, you're in good hands with Allstate.
This is E.G. Marshall. Our next episode is about a man who sees the process of justice through the eye of fear.
My wife is dead, and the police think I killed her.
What did you say?
Please, help me. Help me.
Mrs. Billings, please. Haven't you anything to tell me?
No.
What about you, Al?
You already questioned me once.
I'm beginning to think once wasn't enough.
When you arrived home, did you quarrel with your wife?
No.
You mean you killed her in cold blood without a quarrel?
No.
And you did quarrel.
I told you I didn't think she was home.
You mean your wife was being murdered in the bedroom and you didn't know it? Say it. You killed your wife with your hands. You placed your hands around her neck. You killed your wife, didn't you? You killed your wife with your hands.
Watch The Eye of Fear, our next show starring E.G. Marshall, Robert Loggia, George Matthews, and me, Robert Reed.